Welcome to this presentation on the evolution of AI features in ATLAS.ti. ATLAS was the first program that offered AI features in 2023, and they started out with offering AI coding features, so the AI is doing the complete coding for you. And the next step, they introduced AI summaries. Then people started playing with it and giving feedback, and there are also videos about that on my channel. I will link that later once we further on in this presentation. So then they introduced another feature, AI suggested codes, which is not like coding everything automatically, but the AI is giving ideas and then you can apply it or not. And for their web version, they introduced conversational AI, so you can go into dialogue with the AI. And the latest feature they introduced was intentional AI coding, and also based on user feedback, because oftentimes the codes the AI coding is suggesting are not related to the actual research question because the AI didn't know something about it. So I will now go through all of these features, also the way they have been introduced, so we can see how things were maybe improved over time. So let me just dive into ATLAS.ti now. I will show examples based on this project where I collected 5 articles on the impact of AI on the labor market. They are documents from the internet. So we see things like future employment and impact on AI and so on. I have a little bit of background information on the study and also some research question. But this is the first step of the implementation where the AI is just doing the coding. So I can just kind of walk you through the steps, but there are videos that show that in detail. So you click on search and code, and then you select the AI coding, select what you want to code, and then start the coding. So I won't go through this process because it's going to take a while. And that has been done already in this project. So you see here what happens is the results are 1,550 codes. The reason why you have that many codes is related to the fact that ATLAS go through paragraph by paragraph and looks at the content and then suggests codes. I have explained that in detail in another video, and I will link that here to that video. It's a quite long video because I didn't want to just say, well, it doesn't work. I really want to give you a solid reason why it doesn't work. The short explanation is that the AI cannot aggregate. I mean, it does. Yes, you can see it. It here says it has like 10 higher order codes where, in a sense, aggregating things under all the work and so on. And we have endless long lists of codes that only have been applied very few times. So that's not how a category would actually look like. It is kind of aggregated, but not in a sense as we would aggregate the data. Let me go back to the document. So basically what we would do if you start manual coding, we read something here and then code what's in here, and then we continue reading, and then we discover something that is very similar to what we've already seen up there. And then we say, well, if you tweak that code a little bit, then we can code the aspect here and there under the same code. And then you move further on, and then you say, oh yeah, you're right, I can apply that code here again. And then you continue. And then it could also be if you continue to code, then you still have to rename the code in order not to end up with 1,500 codes where each of the codes are only applied very few times. So the way we aggregate codes is different from what you see here. It's not like under just a main word. Yeah, if you have more than 10 subcodes, that's already a lot. And we will see here a lot of subcodes. So that doesn't work that well. So let's move on actually to an evolution of that, in a sense, which is suggested coding. We return to the summaries later. So we are in a newly generated project. I added these 5 documents about the effects or impact of AI on the labor market. And now let's see what we get if we let AI suggest the codes. So I go through the normal coding process. And now instead of entering my own code, I click on suggested codes. So this says there are already many things that AI can do better or more efficiently than a human. This will have an impact on the world of work. However, experts do not believe it's mass layoffs in Germany. So I can put code this AI advantages. We could use that code and impact on work. And then let's continue with the next paragraph. So this one says artificial intelligence will find its way into every industry. That is what the World Economic Forum states in its latest report on the future of work. Everywhere, at least half the companies surveyed say, yes, we will probably be using AI in the near future. In some industries, the figure is even higher than 80% of companies. Surveyed companies, World Economic Forum doesn't, well, it depends a bit on the research question. If you also want the source, it could be AI implementation. So how far AI is already implemented. But it needs, of course, a definition. What extent AI is implemented. Yeah, it doesn't really fit so well. I'd rather would call this intention implement. So let's see, but that alone doesn't have to be a cause for concern. After all, we are going to use AI. We will replace people with it. Does not automatically mean we will replace people with it. That's an interesting one. It doesn't have to be a concern. So it doesn't really fit. I mean, it doesn't have to be a concern. So it's not a concern that expressed here. And we're going to use AI. We will replace people with it, but what it's meant more here that AI is shifting jobs. That's what I read out of this here if I humanly code that. So just I don't want to make that video too long to go, too much, but you already can see here. Sometimes you might be able to apply that. Other times it doesn't really fit because the AI is kind of reading the words. And of course, generative AI can do more than concept search and other automatic machine learning based coding. For me, it's always like it cannot get that. It doesn't ask the kind of questions we are asking when we're coding. What is this data segment all about? It's not necessarily about the words that are in the text. It is about the meaning. And that is something it can maybe grasp better when it's summarizing data, but not for suggesting codes. So I still have an issue, even if it's not all done automatically. Yes, look at the suggested codes, but especially I think if you're not skilled in coding, you kind of think, oh, that applies. And it doesn't really help you to learn how to code because I've been doing that now for 30 years. So I can tell you that if you just use these codes as they are suggested there, well, it looks like, okay, yeah, this is AI implementation in this, but then what is it all about? if I read AI implementation, then I would kind of expect example, like how was it implemented to support with writing, um, to support with writing, with email or summarizing or with data analysis, whatever, suggesting codes if you're programming and so on. So that I would associate more with AI implementation. And then I was trying to write a definition, and then it was like, well, I think the code name is different. So unfortunately, I think that is also not such a great way forward. So let's take a look at the summaries now. Yeah, we can also go to analysis here and then go to AI summaries. And as the documents are in German, I did translate all of them. So this on top here in parentheses is the English translation. So we get rather short summaries, and documents are also not that long apart from this one. So this is a report of over 150 pages, and we get a summary like this. And as compared to, that's 7 pages long, and yeah, we get a similar long summary. The summaries are kind of a nice to have, but it's not something that you can just create a document out of from these memos, as you might read in some instructions. Here there is a possibility at least to convert this into a document and then apply autocoding, and then it's done. I mean, this is way too few information about that document. And then there's a funny one which I actually figured out later what the TLDR. I first thought that was a bug, and it only occurred now with one document, and I'm not sure why that is. So too long didn't read, and even that is the short summary, but overall, and it basically doesn't actually capture what the document is all about. It captures kind of the last paragraph. If I would see this for a qualitative analysis, well, this is not a shortcut you want to take. Tells more about, well, you've done sloppy work if you just haven't maybe don't do that as qualitative researchers. We need to be familiar with the data, and we shouldn't be lazy and not reading the document. The issues with summaries, that's not an ATLAS issue, that's a more general issue. I have a longer video done about that, comparing it also with other applications, and I link that video here as well, so you can take a look if you're interested. The AI kind of picks whatever it thinks it's interesting and leaves out lots of other stuff. And if we would do the summaries again, we also get different kinds of summaries. I show that in that other video. And so in every summary, we learn different aspect of the document, but that's not something we can rely on. And I can give you an example where I have 4 interviews that are all about friendship, and they talk about best friends, but they also talk about when friendships go wrong, when there's no trust, when people talk behind their back, and there's all kinds of stuff. Everybody also talks about their best friend in the interview. And so when I did the AI summaries, the AI was picking a narrative, and it was picking a narrative of the best friend. So I kind of got a nice coherent story about the best friend in each of the summary, but it left out all that other stuff. So just kind of think about when you do summaries, and I would take them with a grain of salt and kind of think, it might be kind of a bit of a reminder of what's in the document. But then if you get something like this is completely not capturing what's in the document. It's capturing basically the last paragraph that's in here. Yeah, and you can also see if you have a very long document and you get a summary like that of 150 pages, it's not really, it can't be complete or capturing all the other aspects. you can also do summaries of coded segments, and well, we can't do that here in this project right now. Maybe let me just switch projects. So this human code version, I actually kind of started to name those projects as a human coded version. And so if I want to get a summary of all negative effects of parenting as it relates to happiness, I can, for example, click on the category code and go on to analysis and then ask for a summary. And those summaries are more decent. It's about 24 coded segments. So it's probably also not capturing everything that's in there, but it kind of, if you've coded the data, you kind of know what's in there, and you can evaluate what the quality of that summary is. And you see my subcodes here. And if you start the video and read the summary and look at the subcodes, you kind of see what's captured here. But I kind of found that the summaries of coded segments, they are somewhat better than the summaries of documents. So take it with a grain of salt and use them as a reminder of what's in the document. I'm now in the ATLAS web version where I can open the conversational AI tool. It still has all the other tools, AI coding, suggested codes, and so on. So I will be greeted, I'm your conversational AI, currently in experimental stage and so on. And then I can say, start the chat. I set here the option that I agree. So what do you want to know about the document? So I have a question here. How is generative AI changing the requirement for professional skills in different professional fields? See whether the document has some information about this. Then it gives me the answer. Generative AI is changing requirements in different professional fields by automating tasks that require information to be collected, processed, and passed on in a structured form. This means that professions such as finance analysts, mathematicians, and lawyers which previously required a high level of education and often university degree can now be taken over to a large extent by AI, and so on. So let's look at where it found that information. AI will bring difference at this time it affects professionals that require a high level of education. So that's that bit. And so I just need automating that professional jobs affected by this will be replaced. There will be just a simple new division of labor. And here we get, there will be a lot of more automation software development and data analysis in the next few years. Many companies will ask themselves whether they really need a large in-house IT staff. So here I can move more directly with certain questions that I have about my data into the text. And then in order to work with the logic of the software, then it still requires me to code those instances of text. I could, of course, go and copy and paste that now into a memo, as this is what it was found in document 1, and then I can move on to document 2. So I'm back at the project where we have been before. I deleted those 4 codes that I created, and now we start again from scratch with the intentional AI coding. Of course, I want to go through all, and then you see the past history. We already tried it out. You could maybe reuse it if it still applies, or you basically copy and paste some information in here. And then I provide some further information. So when you now add a little bit of background of your study here, so that's the aim of the study, and then maybe a little of other information, these are some major theory that might influence the study, then Atlas or the AI will suggest some questions for you. These questions you can keep, or you can also change. So most studies will already have research questions, so you actually don't want the AI to invent those for you. But I can paste them in here and see what's happened if I paste them in here that picks up on those questions. If you already have research questions, then you paste them in there. Otherwise, the ATLAS.ti will make up some. Then the category suggestions, you can change, or you can leave them as suggested here. And I had, it picks up on things I had before. So if you want the category name to be shorter, yeah, okay, that doesn't matter, that's same. But here then I might only want to have ethical conservation, because otherwise you get, huge long category names and they show up in the margin and you don't see any other, you don't see the subcodes anymore. And then you click on the starting button and then you have to wait a bit until ATLAS.ai or the AI is generating the outcome. So the AI coding based on the research background information I provided is now done. So it's found 452 codes in those 5 documents, and we have 153 coded quotations. What we see, it's lots and lots of codes attached to one segment. So let's now inspect the code. So it has now created 4 categories based on the research questions I gave it, which, well, in a way is the wrong approach to start with anyway, because we also see now we have here 129 segments here in the changing requirements and a very, very long list of codes. And most of them are only applied very few times. So basically, when you start coding, well, of course, you have your research question in mind, but you're not having a category is not your research question. It's when you revisit your research question after coding, it's often a combination of different codes you use or your subcodes from certain categories and so on. So this is already a drawback I see here immediately. So we have here automation under job security, under changing requirements, and what he is called automation impact and automation of routine tasks. From a methodological point of view, each code only occurs once in a code system. We do see here some repetition already going on. So what is meant under automation here, and what is meant here under job security, and how is that different? If we search for AI, we see AI impact here. We see AI impact here, impact on skills. It's kind of the same. I mean, lots of AI stuff here. We have AI impact here again. And let's see whether we have technology somewhere else. Here we have AI technologies. Again, I think that could also be easily fixed if you tell in the coding, don't do technology and technologies, or make them different codes. But so we see a number of codes here, and human-machine collaboration, machine interaction, it's kind of the same. So there's a number of same issues here as well, but then on different categories, because it simply doesn't work the way how to build a coding system. So it does violate some basic rules on how to develop a code system. And I'm linking a video here as well, where actually I explain how to build an hierarchical code system for computer-assisted qualitative data analysis, and then you might understand my critique here a bit better. So I'm not really overly impressed now with the intentional coding. Yes, you have the ability now to add some background information. Let me just check that very long document. And then, because it only picks on the issues where it think is relevant related to that research question, and it leaves out other stuff which might be okay, but we have one paragraph and we have almost as many codes here related to that, and it seems to be there are answers to all to all 4 research questions in that just one paragraph alone, if you just go by the categories. And here's everything about changing requirements. But you see kind of the pattern here. We often get like 6, 7, 8 codes attached to this one data segment. That is also something we normally wouldn't code in that way. So if we go back to the features here that I've been going through now, we looked at the fully automated AI coding. It usually generates too many codes. We saw with 5 documents, it was generating 1,500 codes. That's actually a lot, I think, because maybe there's a very large document in there with 150 pages where it generates a lot of codes, because it, as mentioned, it basically gets ideas for every paragraph. So if you have a very long document in there, you get the number of codes increases. But that also means if you code 2 documents, you might get 200 codes. If you code 5 documents, you might get 600 or 800 codes if the documents are 10, 20 pages and not 150 pages. And the more documents you add, it's not going to start looking at what we already have and adding it to it. It does that a little bit, but not on the whole. So it's going to blow up the number of codes the more documents you're going to add. We looked at the suggested codes and to see, okay, if the automatic AI coding doesn't really work, can the AI help us to generate ideas? And I have some reservations there, because I think it really works more on the descriptive level. It's not coding what is this data all about. It's not coding like a human coder. It just kind of picks on some concepts in the text and then said, well, there's something on influence or on work time reduction, but this is often not what it is all about. And my concern here is if people know how to code, they will catch that, and they will maybe sometimes pick a code that is suggested, but otherwise they just invent their own. But if you're not experienced in how to code qualitative data, you think, oh, that's a great idea. You start using that, and in the end, you end up with apple and pears in a basket, and you don't know what to do next. And we have these coded data, and it doesn't lead you anywhere. And so you have to spend all that time to go through the data and code. The conversational AI is kind of a nice feature in the web version. It gets you somewhere, but it's more like, the approach I'm advocating anyway. So to kind of leave that coding paradigm, but within Atlas, of course, we are in that coding paradigm, and to think about qualitative data analysis in a bit of a different way, so that you ask questions, you get some answers, but then you're kind of stuck. You would have to copy and paste and put that in a memo, and that for every document, Atlas kind of still leads you to, okay, here are the data segments, code them. And then you do something with the coded data. So it still kind of leads you back to that coding paradigm. And of course, that's what the Atlas main features are all built around. If you want to learn more about this idea of can we actually analyze data without coding, well, I'm linking a video here as well with the title Life Without Coding, Does Generative AI Fulfill Us Dream? So you can learn more about the idea of how that could possibly look like. And the last thing we looked at was the intentional coding. I mean, the last thing about coding as an attempt to respond to user critique that the codes are not related to the research question. It's coding like everything, but it's a lot of time irrelevant. It's just like on the very surface level. It's not related to the aim of the study. So that's why intentional AI coding was introduced. So you now can add a little bit of background information. But again, the codes are remaining on that level that they're not very useful. They violate the coding system violates the most general rules of how to build a coding system. So there is no methodological underpinning behind it. There's nobody who thought about, from a methodological point of view, who do we code as qualitative researchers, and then taking that into account, implying the AI features in Atlas. That's why my evaluation still is these features are not very useful to have. The only one that helps you a bit is the AI summaries, but more as a reminder of what's in the document. You can't rely on the summaries. They will leave out important stuff, and every time you generate them, but for that you probably have to do a new session or add the documents again. But if you try that out or add the same documents in different projects, you will see it's going to be a different summary every time. The most useful in that context, I find the summary based on coded data, at least from some of the experimentation I did, that because it's on the subset of the data. It's not like on a 20-page document where you get a half-page summary. So it's on the coded segments that might just be a few pages. And of course, the summaries can be better than if you do it on very long documents. So this is my review on the 2023 AI features of ATLAS.ti. Check out the information I also put in the description of the video. I will link some interesting other videos, some interesting material. If you're generally interested in learning how AI can help you in qualitative data analysis, you'll probably find some interesting material there.